Hello, everyone. It's me, Sammy Marco. Forgive me for any weird audio stuff. All the audio is turned down, like my microphone is off, everything's off, but somehow it's still sending the computer speaker, the computer mic, towards the stream. OBS is being weird. I don't know how to fix it. It was not doing this on Friday when I did a test stream, so we're just gonna have to live with it. So you might hear a lot of tiny little sounds of things happening, but that's just because the computer mic is really sensitive. But it's 1:30 right now. I have the chat right here on my phone, and let's get this thing started. I also have audio just to see how it sounds, just to make sure. All right, it sounds pretty good. I can hear the background music, and you can hear me, so that's good. We'll see how many other people join, since we've only been up for a little bit. Hello, how we get around? How are you doing? All right, so I guess we could just get right into it. I'm not expecting a ton of viewership because it is a Sunday. People do stuff on the weekends, and my channel's not that big. Also, VRE is only people. The only people that care about it would be people in Northern Virginia, and that's a pretty small part of my audience. So, let's get this started. Hopefully, the background music isn't too high. Let me know if it is, and we're gonna start this video. So let me just switch over to there we go. So you can see me up there. Let me get the main screen here. So this is my first time watching it. So we're gonna be watching this together, see what's going on. All right.
Hi, my name is Nick Ruiz, and I'm the Planning Program Manager for the Virginia Railway Express, or VRE.
And I'm Rebecca Sprouse, Senior Planner with STV, a consultant to VRE.
Hello, History and Leisure. What's up?
In this presentation,
You're
we're
working
going
an
to
hour.
review
We
our
have some
System
time.
Plan 2050 Update project and share information about our recorded rail service scenarios for the shorter and longer terms. In case you're not
Yeah, so they're just gonna explain the very basics at the beginning, so forgive me.
familiar with VRE, we wanted to provide a quick overview. VRE provides commuter-oriented rail service. That means we mostly provide service in the direction of peak rush hour traffic. We have traditionally run trains northbound into DC in the morning and southbound in the afternoon and evening.
VRE operates between the Northern Virginia suburbs and the DC metro area, including Alexandria, Crystal City, and downtown Washington, DC, with 2 lines running parallel with the I-66 and I-95 interstate corridors. You can see the 2 lines on the map. The blue line is called the Manassas Line, and the red line is called the Fredericksburg Line.
While VRE currently has trains operating every weekday, providing valuable service to weekday commuters, this presentation focuses on planning for VRE's future. VRE's system plan provides a framework for system investments and actions VRE should pursue to best meet regional travel needs in the future, in both the short and long term.
VRE's previous system plan was completed in 2014 with an eye on the year 2040. That plan identified a program of improvements that included new tracks and stations, new trains, and improved service addressing expected travel needs through 2040.
The system plan does not plan at a
2040 sounds like it's far away, but it's only 16 years away, which is kind of crazy to me. Anyway.
small scale. It provides plans for capital investments as well as high-level strategies about where, when, and how we think we should operate as we move into the future. It does not include specific details about train arrival times at specific stations, exact fares that we plan to charge in the future, or other similar details.
VRE's last system plan was adopted in 2014, and the world in Northern Virginia has changed significantly since then. Telework has expanded greatly in our region. Last year, we learned that from 2019 to 2022, there was a 23% increase in riders who telework at least some days. Additionally, Northern Virginia continues to grow and change. Much of this growth is projected to occur in the outlying areas, which VRE provides service to, such as Fredericksburg, where a 35% increase in population is expected by 2050, the highest rate in our region.
Wait, so
which
what was
for
that?
At least some days. This growth is projected to occur in the outlying area used to grow and change. Much of this growth is projected to occur in the outlying areas, which VRE provides service to, such as Fredericksburg, where a 35% increase in population is expected by 2050.
Yeah, DC, like the inner suburbs and DC itself, is one of the best parts of the country for transit, not having a car, all that stuff. But it sprawls pretty quickly, and that sprawl is not stopping anytime soon. So that doesn't really surprise me, especially a lot of people are moving down to the Fredericksburg, Stafford area just because it's cheaper, and things are not getting cheaper closer to the city.
The highest rate in our region. This means we need to be ready to provide valuable service to the region's new residents. Lastly, other plans and projects have been created since 2014 that we must coordinate with. The Transforming Rail in Virginia initiative, also known as TRV, is a Commonwealth of Virginia-led effort managed by the Virginia Passenger Rail Authority that seeks to add rail capacity and service while improving transportation choices for the Commonwealth. We use the TRV plan as our baseline for VRE's future in the near term, and then considered other strategies we may need to add for the long-term horizon.
Now that you have some background information about VRE and our system plan, let's take a look at the update process in more detail. The project's first phase kicked off in the summer of 2022. In that early phase, we defined a vision and goals, conducted a market analysis, and created ridership projections to guide our decision-making. Phase 2 included developing many different service concepts for VRE's future. These concepts were refined based on feedback and analysis. In this phase, we also developed a 2030 service alternative to guide our shorter-term planning work. Now we are in phase 3 of the project. A recommended 2050 service scenario has been developed after
Percent versus numbers should be further detailed. What are you referring to specifically? Because I probably agree with you. I don't like how things like this are always so vague. Like, I know they said they weren't going to give exact like station times, and that's fine because that still has to be worked out. But you know, we still are only 5 minutes in, so hopefully they do give us some better numbers. Also, Prince William County, Fairfax have much larger populations. That's true. That's true. Fairfax is the largest county in the U.S. or in the Virginia by population. But that population has slowly gone down just a few percent since COVID. That's mostly because they're not really building new housing, and households themselves are having less people in them because families are smaller, etc. It's also really expensive. But yeah, I mean, WMATA Metro already serves Fairfax pretty well. So VRE is more of a supplemental service in Fairfax County. Unless you go to the specific VRE stations. The vast majority of people riding transit in Fairfax are going to be on WMATA or Fairfax Connector, which is the local bus service.
much discussion among VRE staff, with the VRE Operations Board, with riders and stakeholders, and after a detailed analysis of multiple alternative futures. We've taken time to assess the service scenario in detail, calculating potential ridership, its impacts and benefits, needed capital investments, funding requirements, and implementation strategies.
The vision of the system plan is that VRE will grow to serve the region as the transportation service of choice, creating meaningful connections and economic opportunities in a safe, sustainable, and equitable manner.
Very vague. Could you... I don't know. It's just so corporate. But that's just how the world works. I know it's just a little cringe, that's all. But c'est la vie.
This vision guided our decision-making and will continue to guide implementation of the final service scenario. In addition to that vision, we developed 4 goals to help us make that vision a reality. We used these goals as we reviewed potential service scenarios for the future. The first goal is safety and reliability. We want to continue our history of providing a safe transportation option and make sure service maintains a high level of reliability. Another is market growth and financial stability, making sure that the options we're considering can help VRE grow our market as needs change, while making sure we are investing our transportation dollars to most efficiently move the greatest number of people while ensuring the longevity of the service. Regional system integration and equitable service. How can we make sure that we provide service that all are able to use, boosting service to areas with poor or no transit service and to areas with high concentrations of low income and/or minority populations. Lastly, sustainability and resiliency, contributing to energy efficient travel and ensuring VRE can be flexible and adapt as climate changes and adverse weather events impact the railroad and our assets.
The vision and goals guided the development of several conceptual service scenarios. Starting with a long list of about 20 general concepts for how service could look in the future, we used feedback from stakeholders and the VRE Operations Planning Workgroup to narrow that down to a smaller set of concepts, resulting in a short list of service scenarios. For these 4 scenarios in the short list, we conducted more analysis and gathered more feedback, including from the public, to determine which would be the best fit for our vision and meet the goals that we established. The final 2050 service scenario is a refinement of one of the scenarios from the shortlist. On the next slide, we'll discuss the important components that make up the service scenario that we are calling the 2050 service vision.
When we developed
So far, their SEPTA look highly detailed in its publications. We need more housing directly adjacent to the VRE stations. Yeah, we definitely do, especially the ones in Fairfax, because the ones around there, it's just basically nothing. Like, there's some sidewalks that connect to some neighborhoods, but it's a very small amount. The problem is the vast majority of the people who will move into those neighborhoods will just probably not take VRE, just based on the numbers. People who know about VRE might be higher than the general amount. Like, the amount of people in that area might be higher in those closer neighborhoods, but it's not like Metro where it's much more obvious that the system is there and it's much more available because the Metro runs like every 15 minutes at the worst, while VRE is peak only, which I think they're going to change soon. But yeah, we would need VRE to be like every 20 to 30 minutes service, both directions all day, for moving next to a station to capture a lot of ridership, because right now it's just the commuters and it's just the physical commuters, especially because telework has really exploded post-COVID. They're making SEPTA look detailed. Okay, yeah, this is just the public facing thing. They probably have more and they'll probably release more over time, but yeah, hopefully we get to some more. It looks like we're going to get to more specific stuff in a sec.
potential service scenarios, there were many factors we considered. These included, but weren't limited to, which days we will run service, how frequently the trains will run, how and where the trains stop. This includes express trains, which skip some stops to run faster, where trains may turn around if only certain areas need to be served at certain times of day, how often trains should run in the non-peak direction, and how many daily trips should be made to support the expected demand.
Okay, yes, let's get some firm numbers on this, because this is what's actually going to be interesting.
The shortlist scenarios were screened, evaluated, and compared against several types of evaluation criteria. The main set of evaluation criteria are listed below, with topics considered in Phase 3 of the planning process listed below each one. Take some time to review them now.
So, I mean, these are all good things, and they're all stuff that you have to evaluate, as it says. I mean, there's not a ton to talk about. Serving underserved populations, which would technically be me, because there's very little other service. I mean, there is the commuter buses, but that's a little different. And the diversified trip purchases, I think that's something they're really going to go on now, because post-COVID, there's less physical commuting, so they want to be the service that you'll think of if you go to a Nationals game in DC, other than taking the Metro, of course. They want to be, basically anything in DC. If you live out here near VRE station, they want you to take VRE rather than drive, because it's their whole business. And I think that's what they're going to try to do, because I know they are starting Saturday service sometime this year. There's no firm date on that, but let's see what they say.
Another important source of input in selecting a service scenario was feedback from both the general public and other stakeholder groups. We solicited feedback from the public throughout the planning process, both in person and digitally. Our methods included setting up an interactive website with information about the system plan update, with opportunities to send comments and questions to the team, a regional transportation priority survey with 817 responses received, and in-person pop-up events and related online feedback activities.
So I think I did one of these, like maybe a year ago. I don't remember where. I think it was just like an Instagram ad or something, but I remember doing something. It may have been a different service, but I think I contributed to one of these. It was like a Virginia one, and since VRE is part of the Virginia government, it goes through that stuff. But yeah, let's see what they came up with.
Additionally, VRE reached out to many partner agencies, local jurisdictions, and internal groups to ensure that regional stakeholders had the chance to understand VRE's process and weigh in on what service scenario would best support their goals. The chart on this slide shows a very condensed view of what we heard from different stakeholder groups. Generally, topics most discussed by our stakeholders included initiating express service from outer stations, expanding weekday service options to other times of the day, and initiating weekend service. On our way to establishing a 2050 service scenario, VRE also created a 2030 alternative, a concept for improving infrastructure and service through the end of this decade. This is an important step that will set us up for future enhancements through our 2050 horizon. The 2030 alternative also helps keep us on track with the Transforming Rail in Virginia initiative.
The 2030 alternative calls for running more daily round trips on weekdays.
Okay, so that's pretty good. I mean, more daily round trips is nice. Hopefully most of those will be in the non-peak direction, because right now the peak direction is fine. Those trains don't even fill up. I think the train on the Manassas line that fills up the most gets like 40% capacity, just because VRE is at 35% of pre-COVID numbers, while like the Metro's at like 65%. So VRE is a lot lower, and that's just because commuting has changed so much. So running more trains will give you different groups of people will use it. But if anything's to show, the two reverse peak trains that go at 3:40 and 5 o'clock from Broad Run and Manassas all the way to DC, those trains see less than 10 people per train. The trains are only moving to come back in the evening. They're just positioning trains that they let you get on, because you might as well, right? So I'm not sure. It's going to take a culture change almost for people to realize that the train is an option. Also, when the train is about $10 in one direction, it does get kind of expensive, especially because parking in DC is about the same. So everyone has to do the math for themselves, because everyone lives in different places, have different cars, all that stuff. But it's not always the cheapest way, which is unfortunate. But again, that's how it is.
Initiating weekend service.
Yep. I thought that was this year, but maybe it's not. Maybe they just said they were going to do weekend service, so we'll see.
First on Saturdays, and then adding Sundays. Beginning to run trains in both directions in the AM and PM.
That's interesting. So I guess that kind of does answer my question. I'm very curious to see what the schedules will look like. Because right now the Fredericksburg line, which goes basically south of DC, only runs during peak. Manassas gets one train to Manassas from DC in the morning and two to DC in the afternoon. But the other line doesn't have any of that. So I'm curious to what it looks like.
Also known as reverse peak service.
Ouch. What's the ouch about exactly? Get more locos and shorter trains, or get multiple units. Yeah, shorter trains might have to be an option. Or it should be an option, honestly, because it's just pulling extra weight, using more money, burning more emissions. Multiple units, they might be wanting to do that soon. That is the new thing to do. The trains are inside, they're clean, they're nice, but they do feel dated, especially because it is train cars being pulled by a locomotive, which is just so 1985. So they might be getting some DMUs at some point. So we'll see.
Initiating express.
Need agreement with freight to run weekend service. Yeah, that's it. Really, Norfolk Southern's the main problem here. If Virginia owned the trackage, then it would be better.
Service. Adding a new infill station at Potomac Shores. Adding and lengthening platform edges at select stations. Expanding VRE's rail yard at Broad Run and Crossroads in Virginia.
That will be needed in order to facilitate the more trains per day and everything, so that makes some sense.
And constructing new train storage yards in DC near New York Avenue.
Yeah, north of Union Station, you can see all the trains sitting in the yard during midday doing nothing. So yeah, they will have to change that as well. CSX? No, it's definitely Norfolk Southern here in Virginia. I've never seen CSX on the tracks here in Virginia. In Maryland, it's CSX. I know that. I used to live in Maryland.
All of this groundwork and analysis contributed to the development of the recommended 2050 service scenario. This scenario reflects the service vision and meets the goals established at the beginning of the process. It includes major enhancements to service, expanding the number of trips per day, as well as the types of trips available. The recommended scenario calls for running trains 7 days a week, for a much longer service period than we do today, and continuing to increase train frequencies on both lines to every 20 minutes during the weekdays in the peak travel direction. Service in the reverse peak direction would also be more frequent and convenient, with trains every 30 minutes on each line. Outside of the morning and evening peak hours, trains would run every hour. All trains are planned to run the entire length of each line, with no turnbacks mid-route. However, in the peak periods, 1 train per hour would be an express train, skipping some stops to bring travelers into the region's core faster. All of this adds up to almost 3 times as many round trips than we provide today.
So that's very, very cool to see. CSX owns quarter between DC and Richmond. Okay, I have actually never been down there. Well, I have. I just haven't seen the trains. Yeah, so I guess they're dealing with 2 railroads, CSX and Norfolk Southern. That's a pain. Actually, let me look this up real quick. Because there's a map on here. Okay, yeah. So this is what we're talking about. The train that goes here, or the line that is close to my house, is around here, and that is Norfolk Southern. Okay, so yeah, Norfolk Southern and CSX share a lot of tracks. Here we go. It's funny they're called railways. That's so British. Yeah. So, okay, yeah. All right, let's get back to this. So yeah, this is cool. Every 20 minutes, that's like getting close to metro frequencies, which is amazing. I assume these trains will be smaller, because right now the 10-car trains they have makes no sense, especially if ridership's going to be lower. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Norfolk Southern owns between Alexandria and Lynchburg. Yeah, I knew that. I don't know a ton about freight, so sorry about that. But every 20 minutes is pretty crazy. Every 30 minutes isn't great, but it's a lot better than what we have now, which is nothing, or 1 or 2. Every hour off peak in both directions and on weekends, that's pretty cool. Going the full length is pretty good because turnbacks just confuse people. One express train per hour, that's pretty nice. I assume that'll stop at Union, LaFont, Alexandria, and then go all the way to Manassas. And then Union, LaFont, Alexandria, and then... See, I know very little about the Fredericksburg line because I never go down there. But then down to maybe a few stations before Fredericksburg, I don't know. And then 29 round trips per line by 2050, which is almost 3 times more than now, which, yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, all this looks cool. The problem is I'll be like around 50 years old when this happens. I'll be a father, maybe. I don't know. I don't even know if I'll live in Virginia or the U.S. Who knows? It's just, it's only 35 or 25 years away, but it feels further than that. And, you know, each of these things will probably happen slowly over time. Like, they could add a few more trains and get this working, like the weekdays right now. And then they could start doing every hour off peak, and then they could start running more here, and then they could do the express. So things are probably not gonna things are gonna happen every few years, I assume, if the plan goes forward, if the money is available. if the ridership is there, all that stuff. But we'll have to see.
To almost 3 times as many round trips than we provide today.
The 2050 service scenario keeps the current extent of VRE's rail lines, terminating at Broad Run on the Manassas line and in Spotsylvania on the Fredericksburg line. However, the scenario includes the potential for improved connecting service to Manassas and Fredericksburg Station via feeder buses. These enhanced connections would effectively extend VRE's 2-seat journey service area. The potential connections could bring riders to and from destinations in Fauquier and Culpeper counties on the Manassas line, and Spotsylvania, Caroline, and Hanover counties on the Fredericksburg line. This plan will not include specific details on the stopping patterns, stop locations, fares, or schedules for future connecting bus service, as those details will need to be addressed through a separate planning and coordination effort after the system plan is adopted.
Yeah, so this is interesting. I know I go to Warrenton pretty often. I don't know how many people there drive to Broad Run or Manassas to get on the train. I assume it's not nothing, or they wouldn't have put this together. But I do know some people who might take it for like concerts and baseball games and all that type of stuff. Culpeper, that is far out. Culpeper is probably a 30-minute drive from Broad Run or something like that. So yeah, I don't know how many people in Culpeper are working in DC or Alexandria, but it could be something. Honestly, they could probably just connect with Virginia Breeze, which is Virginia's publicly ran coach bus service between cities. They could probably just like either hire another bus or just do the service that's already existing, because there is already a bus that goes to Warrenton and possibly Culpeper, I'm not sure. And you could just have it stop in Manassas or Broad Run. So this is interesting, but I just have no idea how it's going to work. Or I guess I have some idea, but I don't know who's going to run. Is it going to be a bus that says VRE? Because railway on bus, that'd be pretty funny. And then with Spotsylvania, I have no idea what's going to go on here. I know those areas very little, so I'm not going to try to understand or try to explain it. But it's just kind of funny how they expect the buses to go to Old Town Manassas and like Old Town Fredericksburg. So kind of the places with the best urbanism in the suburbs on both lines, which makes sense. Some people might just want to take the bus to Manassas rather than getting on the train as well, because there's plenty to do in Manassas and I assume Fredericksburg as well. All right, let's see what's on the next page.
The service scenario will provide tangible benefits to existing and new VRE users, the region at large, and even road users who don't ride VRE.
They should focus on current station area, Nova Rapid Transit says. I mean, they are. I mean, do you mean like bus service at the station so people don't have to drive? I can tell you, knowing people out here, the vast majority of people are just not going to take a bus unless it's like the only option. Plus, parking is free, I believe, for VRE at most stations. So, yeah, in Fairfax County, there is limited bus service at the stations, I believe. And at Manassas, there is a few bus routes in the area. Manassas Park has one bus route, which I don't know how many people use. It's probably one finger worth of people on a normal weekday. But yeah, I mean, they are focusing mostly on the current stations when it comes to service and everything. But just the area is just taking a bus is not in the culture of pretty much anyone here. The vast majority of people, I should say. So if that's what you mean by the buses, I respectfully give my 2 cents just knowing the people around here. And Nova's in your name, so you might also know. But I'm talking more about Manassas and the places further out. Just, it's not in the culture. Riding the metro is just the most that people do here. That's relatively normal when it comes to transit. All right, let's see what they have here.
Competitiveness, better access to jobs, education, and other essential services, and the capacity for more housing and more orderly development in areas near transit stops, allowing those areas to support a higher density of development without negative impacts to the roadway network. With more opportunities to use VRE for their daily trips all week long, VRE users can expect to see savings from lower vehicle fuel, maintenance, and insurance costs. They can also expect travel time savings from skipping traffic. An increase in frequency and types of trips will help get VRE users to more destinations they want to go, and they can reap the benefits of a more active lifestyle associated with using active transportation, such as walking or biking, to connect to or from a VRE station. Even non-riders can see benefits from VRE's proposed enhancements. Fewer cars on the road means fewer vehicle miles traveled and reduced negative impacts of driving, including fewer vehicle crashes, less congestion, and fewer capacity increases required.
So I'm going to take a little bit of a unconventional approach here, but there have been studies, and there's probably studies that say the opposite too, because there's just so many studies out there. But there are studies, and I believe it was in Chicago, when they came out with the CTA train, basically their version of the metro, the L, in the middle of a roadway. It's kind of like the induced demand with lanes, but with transit. So when you add more lanes, you give space for people to go, and same thing as just adding the train. Some people get on the train, same idea. But over time, as people see that there's less traffic, it will induce more demand for the highway because the vast majority of people out here still drive. And it doesn't really mitigate traffic. People on the train might get to their destinations quicker because it goes past the traffic, but I just don't love it when they say congestion mitigation because it's probably very limited. I would say asterisk required. It's a complicated topic, I get it, but it's just something I see that's it's like induced demand with the lanes, but just with a different way of transportation. The induced trips here is interesting because I mean I guess there are some trips that people would take that they wouldn't that they can't now because there's no service. And then of course there's this. If they built like one of you guys said, if they built the apartments and the higher density townhouses, apartments, higher density housing near the stations, right now for the vast majority of trips, other than commuting, basically they would have to drive, and that would mess with the local roadways and parking and all that jazz. But once they get to the every 20 minutes, at least during rush hour, the train would be a viable option for many more people. So that might actually work. But I also have seen a study at one point where this was like one thing. I don't even remember where it's from, so take it with a mountain of salt. This was like a dense, city, and they built a bunch of apartments, and there was transit there, but the vast majority of people still drove just because it's America. And even other countries, people drive. We kind of forget that people drive in London all the time. Must be pretty annoying. Anyway, yeah. So it's interesting to see what they say. But let's see what they say next.
And fewer capacity increases required.
Well, 2050 is over 20 years away. You won't have to wait decades to start seeing service enhancements. Service frequencies and the number of trains running on VRE lines will increase gradually from now until 2050 to meet the service scenario's targets. By 2030, we will work to increase the number of weekday trips by 63% compared to today.
You may be wondering where VRE
63% compared to today.
So that's cool. Yeah, I'm curious to what we'll see, because it would be nice if there was a later train coming from DC, because I think the latest one leaves at like 7 p.m., I think, that comes out here to Manassas area. So it'll be interesting to see. It's nice that it's not going to go from 0 to 100, but it's going to slowly go up because that's how everything works. Yeah.
You may be wondering where VRE goes from here. Now that we have decided on a recommended 2050 service scenario, the plan goes to our operations board. We expect the operations board will consider adopting the recommended scenario later this spring. Next, VRE's parent commissions, the Northern Virginia Transportation Commission and the Potomac and Rappahannock Transportation Commission, may choose to also adopt the plan. Once the system plan is formally adopted, we can begin all of the activities associated with plan implementation.
Yeah, so jurisdictional coordination, I don't think that's going to be too difficult. See, I don't even know if this has been officially approved by the NVTC and BRTC. I'm not sure yet. Actually, we can just look up VRE news, and that would probably be the most recently thing. This is a cool idea. If we could run Mark and VRE through running through DC. Yeah, actually, here's some interesting that we'll talk about in just a sec. But I'm not seeing anything about them approving the thing. That's the same thing as before. Yeah, so I don't think they've done it yet. But I think the hardest thing is going to be funding, because the PRTC also is the parent company of OmniRide, which is the Prince William County's local and commuter bus service, and that service is having major funding issues. One part is because they get about half the ridership, but pay double the price as a different bus service provider. The one that I compared it to is in Massachusetts, but I still don't know why it costs so much more here. Like, cost of living is higher, but still, it's like not double. Also, a lot of OmniRide's buses go on the highway, which is just cheaper because you don't have to stop and go all the time. And the fares are pretty expensive. A lot of employers here pay for commuting, so it's not expensive for a lot of the people, but it is expensive in general. Not approved yet for 2050. Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. This is just the vision, but we'll see if it actually happens. But yeah, funding's just going to be the hardest part, because it's always the hardest part, money.
And all of the activities.
Okay, yeah, so if you want to say anything, then you can go here. I think I've looked at this, or something similar at least.
And then.
But yeah, let's take a look at that WTOP page, because I don't remember reading this, even though I check WTOP pretty often. So yeah, they have approved a budget for next year, or for fiscal 25, 5% fare increase, of course, and potentially new weekend service. Okay. Interesting. Okay. So I remember reading last year that it was going to happen this year, but I guess it wasn't official. They're going to streamline the fares. That's nice. Ridership still remains 2/3 below Yep. That's all accurate from what I've seen. Funding for 3 trains to run Saturdays on Manassas and Fredericksburg lines, but agreements with the host railroads, Amtrak, CSX, and Norfolk Southern. Yep, it's always about the host railroads. That's one reason of many why American commuter rail kind of sucks. It's because we're generally, outside the Northeast Corridor, of course, we are generally bowing to the freight railroads to give the services time and space to run their services. Yeah, so we don't know exactly. Sometime this summer is the fingers crossed, but we'll see. So they're gonna get rid of fares for kids. I assume that's under 18. Okay, that's nice. That's nice, actually, especially when going to like baseball games and stuff, or even football games. You could take VRE and then take Metro as well. Interesting. So 120 million for 6,000 a day. Oof, that is not great, because OmniRide, again, Prince William County's bus service is around 6,000 per day. They're going to be around 60 million this year. The one in Massachusetts, which is called the WRTA, they get about 10,000 riders per weekday for 30 million a year, or at least a few years ago. But still, it's just rail costs so much more. Rail can be cheaper, but a lot of people have to ride the system, and not a lot of people are riding the system right now. So that is part of the money, part of why it's so expensive. So I assume that's partly fares, but I think fare box ratio is somewhere around 10% right now. Actually, I I was reading something a few months ago, and I actually found VREs, and I put it on the Wikipedia page. So, okay, it's 15% based on last year's report. Okay, that makes sense. So about 28 million. So 190 million for last year and 120 million for this year. That is an interesting discrepancy. I'm not going to look into that now. But there's also an expensive 6-year capital improvement program. This is mostly, I assume, going towards, the improvements to the stations, the stores, facilities, the parking lots, the new parking garage. I don't know why we need a new parking garage when ridership is at 35% of pre-COVID rates, but okay. And they're going to buy more train cars, it looks like, which I guess they have to do with the new, with what they want to do with running more trains. New budget is increase of 100 million over the 2024 budget. That is weird. Why is this one so high then? I don't know. Fare hike, okay, so the jurisdictions have also been putting more tax money towards it. And then, yeah, here's the official, whatever you want to call it. Interesting. So do you guys have any more questions? MBTA runs the tracks. Okay, yeah, I know that in the MBTA commuter rail is one of the best in the nation. That makes sense why they're able to run more trains. Because if they own the tracks, then that makes it a lot easier. So yeah, are you telling me they own all this or just most of it? Because I guess most of it, probably because, yeah, this is just a branch out to here. This one might continue up. This one might be a freight line up to, like, this area over there. I know one of these is the Northeast Corridor. I think that's this one, right? No, that's not it. Oh, no, one of them goes all the way to Providence, Rhode Island. Oh, it's this one. Here we go. Yeah, interesting. Weekend service costs. Okay, yeah, that's probably part of it is the weekend service costs. But it says, like, based on this 2023 report, the operating expenses for total for fiscal year 23 was 190, even though it's going to be 120 in fiscal year 25, which is a little weird, but whatever. So if I just type in 190, assumes, yeah, so yeah, interesting. Maybe it's part of the COVID funding or something. I don't know. Interesting. Because yeah, this is what I found to put this right here. Because this was not here before, and actually this page has been updated a lot since before COVID. Because I was like interested in comparing the before and after COVID fare box recovery ratios on different services around the world, and it looks like they've added a lot. People just in general have added a lot more, probably just because urbanism and trans has exploded in the past few years. Because like even in Europe, okay, the London Underground kind of crazy. I think there's an asterisk there on something, but yeah, I mean the Rotterdam electric tram, the tram system in Rotterdam basically makes all, at least before COVID, made all their money back or close to it. So it is possible. You just have to have a ton of ridership and also lower like operations costs. I'm sure the being unionized doesn't help, but it does help with people and their money, so it's not like a bad thing per se. So yeah, I mean even Amsterdam's system got to 88%. I mean, I believe America's highest system is, or at least was, BART. So Amtrak, yeah, before COVID it was pretty high. Caltrain, yeah, Caltrain, which right now they're upgrading to electric, which will be interesting, had 70%. It's pretty high, but also their fares are pretty high. And then yeah, BART, which is San Francisco's Metro, to keep it simple, 50%, which is pretty good. I know before, this was in 2020, so I'm sure that's lower because of COVID, but I know before COVID they were around 70%, which is actually crazy. But BART has no monthly pass, and it's also really expensive, like more expensive than driving. Yeah, like I looked from going like, the airport to like the furthest station. It's like $15. So yeah, BART, it's kind of funny that BART has to use fares to make up a lot of the revenue when California is such a, like a progressive state where you think that the state would take care of a lot of that money, like the vast majority of the other systems in the US. But I don't know. This is interesting. Pierce Transit, which is a bus only service, it's also a pretty small service. 42%, that's like really high. For a bus service, that's really high. Because they only get like 23,000 a weekday. That's pretty good, but that means they're running a decent amount of service as well. Like that's really high, especially post COVID. I don't know. That's weird. Anyway, I think I'm gonna be done because there was only one person left in the chat. Thanks for continuing to watch my ramblings, but thanks for watching, and have a good day, and I'll be releasing a new video next week, so keep watching for that.